I've spent the last decade as a forensic accountant. My job is to find the money people think they've hidden. I look at spreadsheets, ledgers, and bank statements to find the one decimal point that doesn't belong. I know that people lie, but numbers? Numbers are honest. This is my real-life karma revenge story. A clinical audit of a marriage that ended when my wife got pregnant by my best friend. If you want a pro-revenge story where the villain is dismantled by their own paper trail, you're in the right place. Today, I'm going to show you how infidelity and betrayal look when you view them through a profit and loss statement. This is the story of the final audit. My name is Ethan. In the world of finance, I am known as a bloodhound. I am the person large corporations hire when they suspect an internal leak. I don't look at faces, I look at flows. For 6 years, I believed my marriage to Maya was my most stable investment. She was a luxury real estate agent, the kind of woman who could sell a glass house to a person who throws stones. We lived in a custom-built home in a zip code people work 30 years to enter. My best friend, Julian, was a lifestyle coach, which is just a fancy way of saying he spent other people's money to look successful on social media. I'd helped Julian out of more liquidity crises than I could count. I treated him like a partner. I treated Maya like my greatest asset. The discrepancy started 6 months ago. Maya sat me down after dinner, glowing with a look I'd never seen before. She handed me a tiny pair of knit shoes. "Ethan," she said, "we're going to be parents." For most men, this is the moment of peak ROI. For me, it was a massive red flag. 6 years ago, before I met Maya, I survived a bout of aggressive testicular cancer. Part of the treatment involved a procedure that left me with a 0% chance of natural conception. It was a closed case. I have a cryogenic storage unit for a rainy day, but we hadn't touched it. We hadn't even started the IVF process. When Maya told me she was pregnant, I didn't see a miracle. I saw a fraudulent entry in our marital ledger. I didn't confront her. In my line of work, you don't alert the suspect when you find a suspicious wire transfer. You keep digging until you find the source. I hugged her, I played the part of the overjoyed husband, and then I went to my office and began a full-scale forensic audit of my own life. I needed more than a hunch. I needed a mountain of data that no lawyer could climb over. Over the next 3 months, I became a silent observer. I set up a home security upgrade that included hidden microphones in our shared office and keyloggers on the family computer. I tracked the shared SUV's GPS. The data didn't lie. Julian, my supposed best friend, was at my house every morning the second my car pulled out of the driveway. But it was the financial trail that really told the story. Julian's lifestyle coaching business was a front. He was functionally insolvent. I discovered that Maya had opened a credit card in her maiden name, funded entirely by consulting fees. She was ghostwriting for Julian from our joint savings. They were using my money to pay for Julian's designer suits, his leased sports car, and even the anniversary dinner he took Maya to while I was away at a conference in Chicago. They weren't just having an affair, they were embezzling my future. They were waiting for the baby to be born so Julian could move in and live off the child support and the house I'd paid for in cash. The most chilling part was the coldness of their planning. Through the microphones, I heard Julian laugh about how I was too autistic with my numbers to notice a whole human being growing in my own house. Maya called me a useful tool. They discussed which of my watches Julian would take once the divorce was finalized. They were treating my life like a fire sale. But they forgot one thing. I am the one who calculates the value, and their value was about to hit 0. By the time Maya was 5 months along, I had enough evidence to bury them both in a legal landslide. I had the GPS logs, the hotel receipts, and the final nail in the coffin. A prenatal paternity test I'd secretly commissioned after finding a stray hair on Julian's jacket in our guest room. Julian was the father. The probability was 99.9%. Instead of a standard confrontation, I decided to host a year-end review dinner party. This is a strategy I call public liquidation. I invited our families, Julian's primary investors, people who had put their life savings into his lifestyle fund, and the head of the luxury real estate firm where Maya worked. I told everyone we were celebrating a record-breaking year and the new addition to the family. The dining room was a stage, expensive wine, soft lighting, and a feeling of warmth that was entirely manufactured. Julian was at the head of the table, acting like the proud uncle and the successful entrepreneur. He stood up and raised a glass of vintage Bordeaux, which I had paid for. "To Ethan," he said, "the most meticulous man I know. Here's to a future we're all going to share." I stood up, but I didn't raise my glass. I opened my laptop, which was already synced to the 75-inch television in the dining room. "Julian is right," I said. "I am meticulous, and as a forensic accountant, I hate it when the books don't balance. So tonight, I'm presenting the final audit of this marriage." The screen flickered to life. It didn't show baby photos. It showed a side-by-side comparison of my oncology records from 2020 and Maya's pregnancy timeline. It showed the bank statements of the maiden name credit card, with Julian's face highlighted on every security camera still at the ATMs where he'd withdrawn my money. And finally, it showed the paternity test results. The room went into a total freeze. It was the kind of silence you only find in a graveyard. Maya started to hyperventilate, the knit shoes she'd been bragging about falling from her hands. Julian tried to stand up, but I looked at his investors. "By the way, Julian, those consulting fees you've been taking from these gentlemen, I've already sent a detailed report to the IRS regarding the $200,000 in undeclared income. It turns out, embezzling from a forensic accountant is a very bad business move. You didn't just steal from me, you stole from the government." I didn't wait for the shouting. I had my lawyer standing in the hallway with the divorce papers and a formal eviction notice for the house, which was owned by a corporate trust I controlled. Since Maya had used marital funds to finance Julian's lifestyle, a clear case of dissipation of marital assets, our pre-nuptial agreement's financial infidelity clause triggered. It stripped her of any claim to the property, my 401k, or my future earnings. I walked out of that house with my briefcase and the keys to a new life. I had already moved my personal belongings to a secure location 2 days prior. The year-end review was the last time I ever spoke to either of them. The aftermath was a total liquidation. Within 6 months, Julian was under federal investigation for tax evasion and wire fraud. His investors sued him for every cent, and his leased sports car was repossessed 3 days after the party. He went from lifestyle coach to legal defendant overnight. Maya lost her job at the firm. Reputation is everything in luxury real estate, and nobody wants to hire an agent who defrauds her own husband and clients. They ended up together, but it wasn't the life they planned. They moved into a cramped 2-bedroom apartment in a part of town Julian used to make fun of. Julian's coaching career was dead, and Maya was working 3 jobs just to keep the lights on and support a man who had no skills other than spending money he didn't have. They had each other, but without my money, they found out they didn't actually like each other very much. I'm still an accountant. I still look for the discrepancies. But now I know that the most important audit isn't the one you do for the IRS.